Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big ideas. And today we're tackling a huge one. It's a question that's right at the heart of our economy, our society, well, pretty much everything. What actually creates value? Is it the work we put in, or is it about filling a need?
So, let's start with a classic puzzle, one that has been tripping up economists for ages. Why is a diamond worth so much more than water? I mean, think about it. You need water to live, right? It's essential. Diamonds, they're pretty, but you're not going to die without one. This paradox is the perfect setup for two totally different answers to our big question.
And this whole thing really boils down to two competing ways of looking at the world. On one side, you've got the labor theory of value. The idea here is that value is basically crystallized human effort. And on the other side, the demand theory of value, which says, nope, value is only created the moment a need is actually met. Let's break them both down.
All right, first up, let's get into the idea that has seriously shaped entire countries and economies for centuries: the labor theory of value, or LTV for short.
So the basic idea here, it's actually pretty simple on the surface. The value of anything is decided by the amount of work that went into making it. Value is captured human labor. The more hours, the more sweat, the more skill you pour into something, well, the more valuable it becomes. Simple, right? And this leads to a really interesting way of thinking about wealth. See, if value is just bottled up work, then getting wealthy is all about piling up as much of that bottled up work as you can. It's like a big vault you just keep stuffing things into. The goal isn't to get things moving, it's to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. But here's where things start to get tricky. The source material we're looking at argues that when you try to apply this theory to the real world, big problems pop up. In fact, it argues that LTV can become what it calls a social tumor, causing some really deep-seated issues. And that brings us to the first huge crack in this idea. The labor theory often ignores one crucial filter: demand. I mean, just look at this quote. If you spend thousands of hours building incredible machines that nobody actually wants, have you really created any value? According to a strict labor theory, yep. But in reality, well, you've just wasted a ton of time and resources. And the fallout isn't just economic. According to these sources, the social cost is huge. Think about it. If labor is the only source of value, society kind of splits into two groups. You have the people who can work, they're the contributors, the valuable ones. And then what about everyone else? The elderly, the sick, the disabled. They get framed as a burden on society.
You know, this isn't just some dusty old economic theory either. We see echoes of this mindset all over the place today. It's identified as one of the roots of things like the 996 work culture. That's working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. It's that same relentless drive to accumulate value through sheer hours, totally disconnected from actual needs.
And this creates a real mess inside our own heads. At home, with our families, value is all about meeting emotional needs: love, care, support. But then you walk into the office, and society tells you value is about logging hours and accumulating labor. The result is this kind of cognitive dissonance. It's like we're forced to have a split personality, living by two completely opposite rulebooks.
And now, we've got AI, which throws a massive wrench in the works for this theory. A tool like ChatGPT can create, literally, trillions of dollars in economic value with basically zero ongoing human labor. So, where's that value coming from? If it's not crystallized work, what is it? The labor theory just doesn't really have a good answer for that.
Okay, so if the labor theory is full of holes, what's the other option? Let's flip the coin and look at the demand theory of value, or DTV. The sources we're looking at basically present this as the antidote.
All right, so with this idea, we're flipping the script completely. Value isn't baked in by the work, it pops into existence the second a need gets met. Let's go back to that diamond and water thing. Water is super useful, but there's a ton of it, so our immediate need is easily met, low value. Diamonds, not so useful, but they're rare and people really want them, high value. It's all about that dance between utility and scarcity. And you can see how this totally changes the game for what wealth even means. It's not something you just hoard in a vault. Instead, wealth is a resource that does its job. It quenches a thirst, it cures an illness, and then it moves on to solve the next problem. This way of thinking is basically the engine behind our whole subscription economy, right? Value comes from solving an ongoing problem, not just owning a static thing. This demand theory also has a really cool side effect. It's a huge driver for innovation. It's because of something the sources call the equivalence principle. Let's say you need a medical diagnosis. The solution could be a human doctor, or it could be an AI. If they both solve the problem, if they both give you the right answer, then in that moment, their value is equivalent. And that's huge, because it pushes us to find the fastest, cheapest, most efficient way to meet the need, totally separate from how many hours of labor went in.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds a bit idealistic, right? Maybe a little too futuristic. But the sources point out that this idea, distributing things based on need, it's not new at all. It's something we humans have done over and over again.
Just take a look at this. It's a pattern that pops up all through history. Way back with hunter-gatherer families, you'd share the hunt based on who needed it to survive. Early Christian communities, they shared everything. And it's not just ancient history. During World War II, America, the heart of capitalism, used rationing coupons based on family needs to keep things stable. The point is, when things get tough, we often naturally fall back on this demand-based system.
So all of this brings us to a really big choice, a fork in the road for how we want to organize our world and, decide what we think is truly valuable.
So here's the bottom line. It's a choice between two futures. Do we build a world based on the idea that value comes from endless work and accumulation, which can feel like a zero-sum game? Or do we shift to a world that values the smart, efficient satisfaction of human needs, a system where solving problems for other people creates value for everyone?
And the sources we looked at suggest this massive shift can start with something really small, something personal. Instead of ending the day asking, how much work did I do today? What if we asked ourselves a different question? What thirst was satisfied today? By just reframing our own definition of a valuable day, maybe, just maybe, we can start to reframe the world. What do you think?